Hello, so in this video we're going to go through the steps for making the FMOD project, which has been explained in the guidelines document, but this is just a closer look at the work process. So there are basically two steps. The first is to look at the video scene itself and get a feel for the ambience. Then we should move on and actually create the FMOD project itself and have a look at all the events and see how it is then integrated into the actual Unity project. So with no more ado, let's go straight ahead and have a look at the game scene. Okay, well here we are at the opening scene of the Mind of Dr. Vorbis. And this is a piece of music which is one of the FMOD events, and as you can probably hear, some of the motifs that come in are playing random. This gives an extended feel to what is actually a very short loop. We'll see that I press the button, and I want you to notice that the music fades as the new scene loads. Okay, well here we are in Dr. Vorbis' room, and I can move around a little bit with the arrow keys. And we hear a sort of hum emanating from the apparatus over here. And we can move across the room. We have a close look at the bellaphone itself. And when we get to the other side, we find it's sort of hooked up to a grandfather clock, and you can just hear it ticking away there. Okay, let's move back, and then when I press the space bar, we're actually going to start the bellaphone itself. Release it. That's some of the bells. Okay, so if I move over to the other side of the room, we can also hear that when the machine starts up, himself. Yes. Okay, so that's a little trip around the room, and then now the show's over and we're just back to that sort of vague hum, and that's what we've got. Okay, so something emanating from the apparatus, the vase shaking, the sound of the bellaphone winding up, and the noise of the glass as the hammer hits it, and the clock ticking away, and notice that got faster as you hold the key on the bellaphone. Right, okay, show's over. Now let's have a look at the FMOD project. Okay, so all the events for the FMOD project are listed in the guidelines, and what I'm going to do is show you the original project that you heard in the video that was just played. So here is the FMOD project, and you can see all the events listed down the left panel here. These are the audio events that are called in the game from within Unity. So we'll take a quick look at each event as they're listed. They are in no particular order, and they're called by name from Unity, so it's important to get the naming right. Let's look at the first one. Clock tick. Okay, I'll play it. There we go. So that is obviously a very simple one-shot sound. Notice it's a 3D event, and we can see that by clicking on the master track and looking down here, and you'll see that it shows that it's 3D here. It's 3D because obviously we want it to be associated with the clock itself, so that the sound is located at the clock. Clock talk, that's obviously just a sister sound to the clock tick. These are straightforward WAV files. I actually made these in using FM8, but however you want the sound of the clock to be, that's your decision. Okay, the flask shaker. Now, this is a simple sound, but it's a loop because it needs to keep playing as long as the spacebar is being pressed by the user. Pressing the spacebar actually starts the bellaphone machine working and that wheel spinning and everything. Again, we want it to be a 3D sound because we want it to emanate from the flask. And I want you to see that the loop is slightly different here. We don't have a loop region, but what I've got here is a sustain point. When the playhead hits the sustain point, just grabs a hold of it and it stays exactly where it is. The reason that the thing keeps playing is because, I'll stop it. If we look down at the bottom here of the inspector, when I click on the event, we see that I've selected async, cut and loop in the actual event itself. This is an alternative way of looping than using a loop region, but I think a loop region here would work just as well. I actually did this because I was experimenting with how this worked with key off and so on. So if you want, you can do it exactly as I've got it here, or I think you can try just using a loop region. Now I noticed that on this audio track, on the audio track itself, we are using a little bit of ADSR so that when you hit stop, it fades just a little bit. Okay. The next is the opening scene. Now this is interesting. The opening scene is obviously a piece of music. It's ambient music. I just play it. Let me make this a little bigger so that we can see the whole thing. There we go. Now as this comes around, when it hits these events, this time notice it didn't play. That's because we're using a random setting. There are actually two little motif files in here, and every time the playhead hits this event, and exactly the same for this event, it plays one of the files or not. This has been set up using probability. So I'm going to leave you to explore that, and we'll go over it in class or when we meet up. But that's an interesting feature. You can put a number of WAV files in here, and each time the playhead hits, it will play a WAV file at random. The secret is to make sure that these motifs actually work with the music that you're using. I'll stop that event, and also importantly, on the master track, there is an ADSR, so that when we hit stop and the new scene loads, because this is the opening scene and it goes into the actual game scene, when that loads, we get a nice crossfade. Okay, next is the the phlogister hum. Well, this is really uses the same playback mechanism or template as the flask shaker, but obviously the sound is more of an ambient low-level thing. It is also a 3D sound. Next we have switch on or switch off and switch on. Okay, these are for the little red button on the bellaphone, and they're simple one-shot sounds. Next I have, this is a Vorbis theme. We can ignore that. That is my alternative opening scene when I was sort of experimenting with this at first. Next one is, the V plates. V plate 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. These are the sort of glass plates which are hanging down on the machine. And as you can see, the one to the left is very large, and they get progressively lighter. So they will actually define the nature of the bellaphone. So what I've got here, I'll just play them. Sorry, that's a little loud. So you see I'm just getting higher in pitch here. Okay, so that's the V plate sounds, but you can see they're one-shot sounds, but again, they are 3D sounds. And then finally, we come to the V wheel. This is probably the most tricky event, as it has a parameter. As the parameter moves from 0 to 1, which is its maximum, it should sound as if the machine wheel is spinning faster and faster, and the pressure is somehow building inside the machine. To get this effect, there is a sustain point on the timeline, right at the beginning. So the playhead is just grabbed and it stays active. What plays is the audio file on the pressure line, which is the parameter line. So here, as the parameter goes up, as long as the playhead is set inside this event, this is the event that will play. When it's in this event, this is the event that will play. Using 5 different audio events. Each one has the sound of something clicking, and they get progressively faster. So let me just pull this out so we can see it all properly. And I'll go back to the beginning and start. See, now the playhead will keep running, but as I play here, it's in this event. And notice in this event, it's set to cut and to loop, so it'll keep looping. And as I move the pressure up, the next wave file fades in. You can see these crossfades here. And then on to the next one, faster and faster, faster and faster, and so on. And this seems to work well enough. Although we're actually going up in steps, it's not smooth. I think the effect works just fine. And then, of course, when I hit stop, there's a little fade out. And I believe that's on the master track, maybe on the audio track. So when we hit stop, there is a little bit of a fade out, and it sort of stops quite nicely. So there you go. That's a sort of review of all the sounds that are needed. And we'll go over this again in class when we meet up. Thanks a lot for watching.